Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera. It's a very nice day here at Hinokicho Park. Kind of expecting the rain to start here pretty soon. It was raining a little bit earlier today. It's very normal for the month of June in Japan. This is the rainy season, what they call tsuyu in Japanese. And we expect at least a third of the days in June to have some kind of rain, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening. Luckily none at all on certain days, which is fine by me. I'm not a big fan of the rain, but definitely the wet and rainy season here. Which is kind of a shame because the temperature and humidity in June is perfect in Tokyo. It's not too hot, it's not too cool, the humidity is just right. In July it gets really hot and humid here, and in May the weather in May is nice, but sometimes it gets a little bit, we have some chilly days as well, so it's a little bit more unpredictable and windy. So as I look out the pond, I can see it beginning to rain a little bit. Hopefully I'll have time to finish this video. The subject of today's video is one of the more unusual rangefinder cameras made in Japan. The camera I'm going to be talking about today is the Fujica Compact Deluxe. For those of you who are new to my channel, I sell vintage Japanese cameras in my online store, japanvintagecamera.com. I also have an Etsy store, and the name is also Japan Vintage Camera. So if you're interested in purchasing a vintage Japanese camera, please visit one of my stores. I'll post links to my stores in the description below the video. This particular camera I am not listing for sale in my stores because this camera was sent to me to be repaired. It's come a long way to me to get fixed, and as I had never seen one of these cameras before in real life, I was wondering what kind of job it would be. Fortunately, Fujica is pretty good in their camera designs, and I was surprised at how well this camera was put together. And it seemed to be put together with an eye toward future maintenance. For one thing, I had to remove the front lens and shutter assembly off of this camera in order to fix the problem it had. And as this camera has a light meter cell built into the front ring here, most of these cameras have wires which run from the back of the camera through a channel in the lens shutter assembly and to the light meter in the front. And if you decide you have to remove the lens and shutter assembly, normally you have to unsolder the wires and all of that, which makes the job kind of complicated. I was surprised when I removed this one here that there were actually a couple of spring-loaded contacts which allow you to quickly remove the lens and put it back on without going to all the trouble of soldering and routing wires and stuff like that. This is the only rangefinder camera of the era which I've ever seen with this feature, so I was quite surprised. The particular problem with this camera was that the aperture was not working, and there's kind of an intermediary spring between the aperture ring and the aperture lever which was broken. And I was able to find a replacement spring. It was a little bit difficult, but I happened to live across the way from the, I guess, Fujifilm headquarters, and some of the people there have some sources to get parts for these old cameras. Unfortunately, they don't have access to get a complete camera other than the ones which they have on display in their museum. Now that I've handled this camera and gotten to know it a little bit, I'm kind of impressed with it. I'm really interested in getting one for myself. So, anyway, I'll go ahead and show you the features and functions and controls and how to use the Fujica Compact Deluxe. We'll go ahead and start at the top here. Now we have the film rewind lever here, and it has a pop-out lever and a little plastic roller here, which makes it a little easier to rewind the film. Here we have the shoe for mounting your flash gun. And like the earlier Fujica cameras, like the M, the ML, the EE, SE, and other ones, it has a thumb wheel focus. So you have to turn this thumb wheel on the back, and that causes the lens to move in and out. And we have a focusing scale on the top here, which is arranged in meters and feet. Next to that we have the shutter release button, which accepts a standard cable release. And on this side here we have a window which covers the light meter indicator. Fortunately in this camera the light meter works. It's a CDS light meter which is battery powered. One weakness with the Fujica cameras of this year or this era is that the CDS light meters were not very reliable on these. And the earlier Fujica rangefinder cameras which have CDS light meters, I've had a lot of trouble with them. I tend to have a lot better luck with the selenium light meters in these cameras. I usually find those to work more properly and more reliably than the CDS light meters. That's kind of opposite reality to most other cameras of this time, but just kind of a quirk that these things have. Going to the back of the camera here, I already mentioned the focusing thumb wheel. On this side here we have the Viewfinder Eyepiece. It's kind of a nice and large viewfinder in this camera, and you can see the frame lines in it if you wear glasses or most kinds of glasses. Over on this side here we have the film counting window with the film counter underneath. The important functions on this camera are located, of course, on the lens, as this is a fixed lens rangefinder camera where the shutter is built into the front. At the bottom of the lens body, where we expect to find the focusing ring, we instead have the ring which we use to set the shutter speed. And the Compact Deluxe has a full range shutter from bulb and 1 second all the way up to 1/500th of a second. There is a ball detent here which will stop the speeds at the proper location. In front of that we have the aperture ring, and we have an aperture range of f1.8 to f22, and we have an auto setting. And when you move the ring to the auto setting, you end up with a shutter priority automatic system. That is, you set the shutter speed and the camera will automatically choose the best aperture for that shutter speed. This is a great feature for those people who might not have very steady hands and don't want the camera to choose a shutter speed which is too slow and might result in blurred images. The shutter priority system works really good. Normally I trust myself to hand hold a camera. It may be as slow as 1/30th of a second. So if I were to set that here at the slowest speed, that means I wouldn't have to worry about getting any blur. Moving over to this side here, we have a self-timer lever, and we have a switch here which allows us to select between the manual mode and the flash sync mode. And here we have a PC sync socket which allows you to attach your flash gun. If you're using a flash bulb, you'll have to use the X sync speed, and if you're using a strobe flash, you can pretty much use whatever the strobe flash recommends. You can use it for a full flash or fill flash, pretty much any shutter speed or aperture. Just refer to the instructions on your flash. On the bottom of the camera here, unlike the earlier Fujica cameras, it's nice and flat, so you can set it on a flat surface and it will sit. We have a 1/4" tripod socket here off to the side. Here we have the film winding and shutter charging lever with a plastic tip. The earlier Fujica rangefinder cameras also came with the trigger wind system on the bottom, but this is much improved over the system which came on the earlier cameras. And here we have a release button which allows you to release the winding mechanism so you can rewind the film. Loading film in the camera is quite easy. The first thing you have to do is open the film door, and you open that by finding this latch on the side of the camera. Kind of unusual and different from the other Fujica cameras. Simply pop it up like so and you open the film door. And to install the film canister or cartridge or whatever in the camera, you would push the forks here like so. Place your film canister in here and then push them down to hold the film canister in place. Push the rewind lever down. Stretch the film across the film chamber and stick it into the bottom, into these slots here on the bottom of the take-up spool, and then simply wind the film and fire the shutter until the film is pulled across and the holes on the top of the and bottom of the film are lined up with the teeth here on the take-up sprocket. Then close the film door, make sure it's latched securely so it doesn't pop open later and expose your film, and then simply wind the shutter and fire it until the number 1 lines up here in the film counter window. This is a really nice camera, very compact, very clean design. There's nothing at all unnecessary on this thing. I would love to have one for myself. I suppose I'm going to have to get out and start looking for one. Someone here in Tokyo has a black paint version listed for sale, and I've never seen a black paint version of the Fujica Compact Deluxe. I'm not sure if it's a prototype or if Fuji actually produced these for the mass market, so I'm gonna have to at least go and take a look at it and see what it is. But the guy wants a fair amount of money for it, which is to be expected. These cameras have a fair amount of value because of their scarcity, and also because that they are really good cameras and can take really great photos. But anyway, the rain is starting to come down here, and I don't want to get this camera or any of my other equipment here wet, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please hit the thumbs up or like button. I'm not sure what they call it here, but anyway. And if you'd like to see more videos, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.